Hi. So today I wanted to explore the concept of creativity in connection with efficiency and the use of AI. And I wanted to start by sharing with you a quote that I find very interesting and inspiring by Alan Watts, a philosopher who has this beautiful way of describing the difference between how nature works and how the human mind works. And he says that nature tends to organize itself in more irregular ways, and that the human mind tends to want to organize experience in straight lines. Listen to it. Because Earth is wiggly, it's not a flat surface, except for the courtesy of bulldozers. This world, as I keep repeating, is a fundamentally wiggly phenomenon. But wherever human beings have been around, you see they have a passion for Euclideanism. Everything is ruled out in straight lines and put in boxes, and great patterns of streets are laid across the surface of Earth. Interesting, right? So I'm going to leave the link to the video where I found this part of a talk by Alan Watts so that you can have a look at it. It's very, very interesting. I highly recommend that you watch it. It's very short also. But I think that creativity is wiggly, right? And most of the times when we are creating something, we have this fantasy, or at least I may have had this fantasy at some point, that you can go, travel in a straight line towards your destination, right? You want to arrive to this thing that, imagine that you want to create a painting, or you want to create a song, you want to create a poem, or whatever you're wanting to make. And there is this fantasy or ideal, right? That you can get straight to the destination. And I believe that AI is promising this now, is this idea of whatever idea you have in your mind, you can translate it right away in a matter of seconds. And you can have the result that you were looking for without the journey and without the destination. But that is not an organic way of making something. And my intuition tells me that the way in which you arrive to the destination, the way in which the result, right, the work of art, I think that the process that took you to get to the result is implicit, is in a way living inside the work of art. So it's not the same. I believe that the way in which you get to the final result matters, in the sense that it is visible, it's living in there. I believe that the process has a pulse inside of the work of art. And but again, we have this this fantasy, I guess, this idea that we can get to the destination fast, quickly, efficiently, but we miss so much on our way, right? It's like you're going on a trip and you don't want to look at the window. You're traveling by car and like you want to see. But what happens if you're taking the scenery as you're moving towards what you want? Then the person arriving at the destination is not the same person. And so I think that there's something beautiful in that, in acknowledging how important it is to take your time, because creativity is like a winding road. And the process, if you have created something in your life, which I'm sure you have, or if you're thinking about creating something, this can be anything. It doesn't have to be art related. It can be whatever you're making, right? It can be a business, it can be a house, or whatever you're making. There are so many twists and turns, right, in the road. It's like we don't usually arrive directly to where we think we want to go. And sometimes what happens might surprise us, and that makes the road so much more enticing and makes it feel much more like an adventure. And well, there is someone, there's this, I'm going to bring something now that I saw on YouTube. This is a TED Talk given by an artist called Diana Aisenberg. And she has this beautiful way of explaining what I just said in a much more visual way. Let's have a look at it.
Si hago un círculo, ahí va, y lo relleno, voy a tener un círculo relleno. Ahora, si vertemos la pintura y la expandimos hasta lograr la forma de un círculo, esa pintura va a encontrar sus bordes. La mirada entrenada ve la diferencia, puede discernir entre una forma rellena de una forma que encontró sus propios límites. A esa forma la llamamos mancha. Son dos modos distintos de acercarse al trabajo, dos maneras de mirar la vida. Por un lado, tener un plan y llevarlo a cabo. Por otro, hacer y dejar que las cosas tomen forma.
She's fantastic, right? I'm going to leave a link to the full video if you want to have a look at the whole talk, which I'm sure you're going to find super interesting, as I did. And so you see that the path does not disappear when the work is finished. The path becomes the work, or at least that's what I believe. And it's evident, it's obvious, like Diana says, for the trained eye. So that's something that I feel is very interesting and it's very true. And let me tell you about my own personal story with this in songwriting. Well, this right now I'm writing an album, and I've been writing this album for a couple of years actually now, because I'm letting it take shape, just like Diana was saying, I'm not trying to define the shape beforehand. I mean, this is taking time for me, but for someone else it might not take as much time. But at least this is a very different way in which I am approaching my creative work right now. I'm letting it speak and breathe a little bit more. Before I would approach it differently. I would before making the album, I would say, okay, I would define the shape, right? I would say, okay, I want this type of song here, and I want it to have this characteristics. But now I'm letting the songs breathe and speak and tell me and what they want to be, in a sense, in a very weird but also very organic way, I believe, or at least for me in this moment of my life. So this weird thing happened to me like the other day. Is like I had this song. I have part of the music and I have most of the lyrics, and I finally realized what the song is about. But I mean, the song is already finished, almost finished. And now that it's finished or almost finished, it clicked on me, and I said, okay, yeah, that's what I was talking about. And this would have never happened before. And it was so, it's like I had like this aha moment, and it was so worth it. It was so worth the wait, because it was so surprising even for me, who had been writing the song. And not too long ago, the same thing happened to me with 2 other songs, actually. So this idea of letting yourself go with the flow of things makes the journey a lot more interesting and surprising, even for yourself, even for the writer or the composer or painter or whatever. So it has to do more with like discovery and treating it more like an adventure than as having it just figured out, in a sense, or sketched beforehand. So it's very interesting. Also, there is talking about how creation behaves like, or we could let our creations behave like or be molded like nature molds landscapes. I was thinking of this song that I wrote, which is called Perfect Harmony. I'm gonna also leave the link if you wanna listen to it. And the song first was an essay. And I remember this just now because the way that song came about, it was so weird because it was first an essay based, I was actually taking an English language course, and I was giving an assignment. One of the, actually it was a test. They gave us a test. We had to read a book called I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. And so we were asked to write an essay based on the album, on the book. And so this was a test actually. And I got really inspired in the middle of the test for some reason. I remember like starting to, and my teacher looking at me like, what's going on with her? Because it's like, suddenly it was like, I was feeling it, you know? It's like, and so I wrote the essay, which was called something different. It was called Vice Versa. And it had to do with, well, anyway, if you listen to a song, you'll understand a little bit more what I'm talking about, but it has to do with how by singing, you can communicate and reach and connect more deeply on a deeper level with other beings, with our human beings. And so that's mostly what it is about, at least what the essay was about when I was writing it. It was only inspired, you know, just the novel actually, well, the novel is about freedom. But again, if you want to read the novel, it's such a good novel. But anyway, I was inspired by it, obviously, and then I came up with this essay. And there were some phrases in the essay that resembled a poem. Like if I felt that there was something there. And so later on, I was inspired to write a poem based on the essay. And so the essay was slightly different. Obviously, it's a different genre, obviously. But so I took the main ideas from the essay and I wrote this poem because I loved what I had written and I felt that it was inspired. Then later on, another musician asks me for, he was making a bossa nova song and he needed the lyrics, or he wanted lyrics to go with this idea of a song that he had. So he started working on that. Then in the end, so I reshaped the poem into this song. Then he ended up not writing the song in the end. So I had the poem, which had turned into, but the essay that had turned into a poem that then turned into a song. And then I said, okay, I'm going to write my own music to it. I'm going to put my music on it. And that's how this song, Perfect Harmony, came about. And so you see how unexpected it was and how this process took time, right? And how surprising in a sense it was. So it's amazing how creativity, if you let it organize itself and find its own shape, it ends up doing so. And I thought that was really beautiful and beautiful for me to share. So what about you? What kind of, like Diana said in the video, there is no judgment here, right? And I'm even telling you that for some of my songs and albums, I actually went for a more structured approach. But I'm finding this way of working a lot more rewarding in a sense. So what about you? What is your favorite approach when it comes to creating something? Do you approach it in a more structured way, or do you let yourself go with the flow?